I want to talk about this again because I think it actually warrants two videos, and I firmly believe that this is going to be historical footage. I genuinely think like we're living through history because I tried to find if anything like this has happened in the past, like if ever there was this spurg out in the Oval Office. And I looked at other times where the United States, decided, okay, we're ending the war here. Like, this is as much as we did, no further. And usually, like, the other leaders, they're smiling, they're hugging, they're pretending to be nice for the cameras. Like never has something like this occurred, ever. And due to the importance of the conflict, yeah, I do think, like, this is going to definitely be historical footage. Now, one of the interesting things that are happening right now on social media, this one has 1.8 million views, is Zelensky apparently insulting J.D. Vance by calling him a bitch. Let's actually watch this and see if it's true or not.
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda.
Right, so this is taking place where Zelensky is inviting J.D. Vance to come to Ukraine, and J.D. Vance is saying, no, because I watched what you're doing with other world leaders, like you're taking them on a propaganda tour, to which Zelensky appears to say, suka blet, which it's true, like suka actually would mean bitch if he said that. But in combination with blat, right, so like suka blat, it doesn't actually mean an insult. It's kind of like, oh my fucking god, like a saying of exasperation, if you will, like kind of like, oh, fuck my life. Which, by the way, it's not professional, it's not diplomatic, but it's not an insult, right? It's definitely uncalled for, but it's not an insult, like he's exasperated. And so what I think actually happened, because I looked at this from many angles, and I tried to understand, like, how did it get to this point? And from what I gather is that the contract that they were supposed to sign, the mineral deal, was something that the Trump administration and the Ukrainian administration negotiated beforehand. Like, they already ironed out everything. And Zelensky insisted that he comes to Washington because they could have signed it in another place. Like, they didn't have to do it at the White House, but, like, Zelensky wanted to go to the White House. And I think, like, the reason he wanted to go to the White House is because he wanted to talk to Trump personally before the cameras. But from my gathering, like the issue that the Trump administration has with Zelensky is that in private, in the past, he was behaving in a way that they don't like to do business with, right? Like, he would say, okay, I'm signing the contract, but then he would go around with other world leaders and start bad-mouthing the Trump administration. He would say that Trump is being fed Russian propaganda. And they were like, well, you just said you're signing the contract. Now you're saying you're not, right? So, like, this flip-flopping on the issue is the type of behavior that the Trump administration didn't appreciate. And from my understanding, like, if you're believing other sources, Biden was exasperated with Zelensky as well. And so, like, this is not something particular to the new administration, but, like, even more so with an unpredictable president like Trump, he didn't want to give him the time of day, right? Like, he just wanted to do business. It's like, all right, you signed this contract with mineral trade deals, and then we have a vested interest in your country. Like, our people are going to be there. And Trump's logic is that if I think that Russia will attack, we wouldn't sign the contract. Because, like, we're giving you money, we're giving you weapons, we're investing a lot of cash into this. If I thought that this is not tenable, that in the future Russia is going to invade and then all of our business goes away, I wouldn't do this deal, right? So, like, this is basically the vision of Trump. Now, you may agree or disagree with it, but at least that's how he is thinking. And so Zelensky went there to actually try to talk with Donald before the cameras. Now, the reason for the press, because a lot of people are asking, like, why was the press there? Were they to corner him? Like, no, this was supposed to be a symbolic moment. This was just like him supposed to go through the press conference most of the questions weren't even directed at him. I mean, so many other moments like this happened with other world leaders, right? And the other world leader just stays there, smiles at the camera, nods, and then they sign the contract, and then they have lunch afterwards, and that's it. Like that's protocol. That's like symbolic. The whole reason the cameras were there was to capture this historical moment where the United States and Ukraine entangled their destinies for the future. And so, like, again, with the mindset that Zelensky had, he was against this. Like, he wanted to talk to Trump. So, like, he went very negative from the beginning. You can see from his body language, it was very closed. The White House administration says that what triggered them was the fact that he was constantly rolling his eyes and he was sighing. And it's not like the problem that he's showing disrespect that was the issue. The issue was, like, Trump is trying to negotiate for peace, and he realized that this man doesn't want peace. So it's like, why is he wasting his time then? Like, what's the purpose? You know, like, from the mindset of the Trump administration, is like, you want to go fight the Russians, then, you know, Godspeed. You know, you can either do it with us by signing this deal, so that I can tell my voters what the fuck we're doing halfway across the continent. Or if you don't want to sign this deal, like, that's fine. But, like, don't waste our time. That's the mindset that the Trump administration is having. And this type of behavior that we saw in front of the cameras apparently is the type of behavior that he had in private. And if Lindsey Graham, of all people, is basically saying that he is difficult to work with and America can't do business with a man like him, then that is now visible to the public. It's not behind closed doors anymore, right? So again, I genuinely think that he got bamboozled by the Biden administration. The main reason he went to Washington wasn't just to talk with Trump, but it was also to talk with the old guard. And the old guard, you know, Lindsey Graham just told him, it's like, look, Trump is in a good mood. Just smile, nod, sign the contract, and then we'll see. Now people are saying, well, what are the guarantees? What are the guarantees? The guarantees were supposed to be negotiated before this event. Like, he had the Ukrainian team, his people, negotiating with the American people to try and make a contract that he will sign. Like this wasn't the time for negotiating anymore. It was over. Like, now it was the time for the cameras and to sign the fucking thing. Now, if he didn't want to sign it, then he could have said so. And the rest of the guarantees and stuff, like, either negotiate them after or before. But anyway, right, this was a colossal blunder, in my opinion. I've never seen anything like it. In the history of diplomacy, I have never seen anything like it. And it will have, like, dramatic consequences for the economy as well. Like, for instance, because the Americans are pulling out of the energy grid in Ukraine, well, this may actually push us into a little recession now. Because due to that deal, you also have the food deal that now depended on that and is probably not going to happen, right? So, like, the grain deal, the fertilizer deal, like a lot of other deals are now falling. The insurance for shipping lanes is going to go up because of this. It's going to have economic consequences, right? And not just in Europe, probably in the United States as well. I think that eventually they're going to sign it. I think, like, the United States interests are also revolving around the sunken cost fallacy and around the fact it's like, well, if we don't get those resources, someone else will. And so America does have a vested interest in signing this, but I don't think they will sign it with Zelensky. I think, like, they will probably just ship him a file of the contract and be like, if you want our help, just sign it and then send us the duplicate, right? No more cameras, no more White House. You're not signing it with Trump. Just like, it is what it is. And that is, of course, if they don't actually change the guy. Right? Because he can be pressured to resign. I don't think Ukraine will have elections, but it's possible that, you know, he will be replaced based on who the Ukrainian constitution has as a second in line. Though I don't think that will happen, to be honest, because as a war president, he gets a lot of support in Ukraine. A new president may actually have difficulty integrating himself with the battlefield. And so, yeah, I think, like, you're still going to have Zelensky. There's no way that he steps down this month at least, unless something else happens, right? Like, if something else happens, we'll see. But still, I don't know what he was thinking. Like it's so bad that people are making conspiracy theories now Like, they just can't believe that, no, he was actually this incompetent. And with his mindset, I can understand why that is. That now, I want to put it in a different light as well, because I do sympathize with the Ukrainian plight. I'm not against him. Like, I do know where he's coming from, right? Like, he's got a nation, is being invaded by the Russians, so, like, the Russians want it, and the Americans want it as well, right? Now, the Americans are willing to arm his people that are still going to die, right? It's not American soldiers, it's his people that are dying. And in exchange, they want to plunder the nation for its natural resources. So, like, he's placed in a lose-lose position, right? And, you know, in his interest, the best outcome would be if he can stave off the Russians by himself or with the Europeans or whatever. But even the Europeans want shit. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure, like, behind closed doors, the Europeans already are asking for stuff and they're signing contracts and deals. It's just that the Europeans have a more sanitized way of doing diplomacy. They would never do it in front of the cameras. But, like, I guarantee to you that if in the EU, the same situation would happen with Ursula von der Leyen, well, all of a sudden, all the Europeans would be like, oh, this is unacceptable, you don't behave this way, blah, 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 right? But it's okay if you behave this way to the Americans. Unfortunately, however, every politician, like, their main goal is to get votes, right? J.D. Vance is there to get votes, Donald Trump is there to get votes, and if the cameras are rolling and they get disrespected, the one thing that every American voter doesn't respect, whether they're left-leaning or right-leaning, is a weak leader, right? So, like, if you're a leader in the United States and you tolerate any type of disrespect on camera, you're going to lose in the election polls. Like, you're going to lose a lot of percentages. And so this is why they couldn't let it go. And not to mention, you know, like, Zelensky knows about U.S. politics. This is not like just some guy that doesn't know anything about how America works. He understands the MAGA base. He understands how they feel about the Ukrainian conflict. Like, the very fact that Donald Trump wants to... Like, yesterday, he was actually talking about giving Mariupol back to Ukraine, right? Liberating Mariupol. Like, the very fact that he's got, like, a MAGA president that is willing to not just drop this, and he decides to actually be antagonistic towards this president. I mean, what can I say? Europe does have to understand that Donald Trump is not a buffoon or a clown. He is the president of the United States. Like, this is the thing that I noticed, the mindset in Europe right now. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're treating Donald Trump like a joke, like a comedian. And when he says something, they're like, oh, well, obviously he doesn't mean it. You know, like, obviously we're going to go with the plan. Like, trust the plan. The plan will work. And then they go Pikachu face when they realize that, no, actually Donald Trump is the president and he means it. Now, again, I'm not saying you have to agree with him. I'm not saying you have to like him. But what I'm saying is, like, you have to accept the reality that he is the president of the United States. And when he says something, no matter how insane it is, he is going to try to do everything in his power to obtain it. And so if it comes to flipping the table, he will flip the fucking table. And so it's best not to antagonize him. But again, that's just my take. Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.